Hey, everybody. It's your girl, Latasha Walk Williams, and we're here, the Purpose Woman Podcast, creating the life that you desire. Come on in because episode 2 is all about self care. What? Self care where? Yeah, this is for the women. Listen, I remember being so tired, not taking care of myself, being a mom, being a wife, entrepreneur, traveling, doing all of that, right? And I got what I call burnout, burned out, burnt out emotionally, burnt out physically, burnt out spiritually. And so we're going to talk about this topic today because as women, we hold so many titles, we carry so much on our back, but it's important that we operate in self-care. And before I dive in, I just want to let you know that I'm not talking about the self-care that social media talks about. Yes, ladies, I want you to go get your hair done. I want you to go to the spa. I want you to go in the bathroom, run a bubble bath, turn on the candles. I want you to do all that. But that's not the self-care I'm talking about. Those are just some self-care strategies. What I'm going to be talking about today is the self-care that's environmental. Self-care in your environment physically and self-care mentally in your environment. You can't be everything for everyone and you're not taken care of. So again, let's dive on in talking about this self-care. I remember a few years back, just working, building a business. I'm a full-time entrepreneur and I know a lot of people out there are entrepreneurs. But before I really got started on this journey of entrepreneurship, it was my side hustle and I had a full-time job. At the time, I had a husband, and ladies, having a husband is a lot of work, and smaller children. So having a husband, having a household, children, a job, building a business, going to church, doing what I needed to do in the community, I began to feel like I was doing a whole lot, and it was me. Because when you first start building your business, you are your team, right? So it was me. I was the team. But I saw myself getting aggravated, and I saw myself not wanting to do what was really passionate to me. And so I sat down, and I'm going to tell you, it's okay to sit down on a couch, not just a podcast couch, but on a couch with someone who can talk to you and you can work through some things. So I'm always going to promote mental awareness. And so I sat down with a therapist and she just told me, girl, you're not taking care of yourself. And that's when I began to change some things. That's when I began to implement some things. That's when I began to show up for me and show up unapologetically. Now let's talk about this environmental self-care. Sometimes your environment is stopping you from literally showing up as your best. You're neglecting yourself because you're doing too much. Sometimes we have partners, but they're not really in partnership with us. So ladies, that's the first thing I want you to look at. I want you to look at home. Look at your home life. Of course, a lot of times we're getting up before everybody does. That's even what the Bible says. Like she rose early, right? So you get up before everybody do. But don't continue to take on so much because you'll burn yourself out. I want you to give the men in your life or your significant other some duties. It's okay. You don't have to try to carry it all. If you have children, give them some responsibilities. The Bible says train them up the way they should go. And when they get old, they should not depart. So your job is to give them responsibilities anyway, right? So look at your household first. Then I want you to look at your circle. Your circle of influence is so important. Look at your family. One of the things I learned long time ago is that I can't be there for everyone. On this success journey, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of people who won't believe in what you're doing, but when they see you have success, guess what? They're at you, right? And I realized I couldn't show up for everyone. I couldn't be there for everyone. I had to say no. And let me just jump in there right now. No is a complete sentence. You don't even have to explain it. Proper self-care is understanding boundaries. You cannot say, okay, I'm going to be there for this person. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And the next thing you know, the same people that you were there for, they have no resources, no ability to be there for you. So self-care is understanding boundaries in love, even with your friendships, even with your friendships. I was the girl who was involved in a lot of toxic relationships. And I'm talking about friendships. I mean, girlfriends. We talked about people, we gossiped, we looked at all the crazy stuff on TV. That wasn't self care. I was in a community of people who were not going anywhere. And guess what? Guess what? Excuse me. Y'all, I was holding myself back. I was holding myself back. I wasn't taking care of myself mentally because when you let toxic things into your head, guess what? It goes in there and it resides and it sets up shop. And then you can't bring it back out into the atmosphere. So I became a product of my environment. My grandmother used to always say, birds of a feather flock together. And I was one of those birds. And I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. All of this started coming out on a therapist couch. Like, girl, you really have not been taking care of yourself. So I looked at my home life. I looked at my relationships. I looked at how I was trying to be there for everyone. That's your environment. Even at work, you got to take care of yourself at work. I know some of you who have jobs, you're on a salary or you're on a pay by hour. Listen, you have a job description and you want to go in and you want to do what you're supposed to do. When it's time to go, you want to go home. But also proper self-care with a job is not being stuck creating somebody else's dream and you've put your own on the back burner. A lot of us are good at going to work every day, building somebody else's dream. And by the time we get home in the evening, we're too tired to work on the thing that God has gifted us to do. We're too tired to do it. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about how many hours you put in a day. You come home, Bill, before you even went to work in the morning, you've done all this work, right? Before you even went to work, you've done work. Then you're at work working. Then you're coming home thinking about what you got to do. And then you're trying to build up your business, right? It's not going to work. That's not proper self-care. There's so much more to self-care than just going and running some bubble bath. But that's what usually happens. You want to jump right into the tub, right? You want to say, you know what? Let me turn on some Luther Vandross. Let me turn on some Kenny G. Let me light some candles and Calgon take me away. Now some of y'all know Calgon Take Me Away is back in the 70s and the 80s. So I just told on myself. But that's what you usually want to do. You want to just chill and you want to relax. I want you to start implementing some things, and we're going to talk about that soon. But that's your environment. Also, watch what you are partaking in. We talked about the job, we talked about home life, right? We talked about family and putting a lot on us. Watch what your eye gates are a part of. There's so much craziness going on the internet. Listen, if you're going to scroll on that internet, make sure your algorithm is set to positive people and positive things. Make sure you're watching motivational quotes. Make sure you're listening to some self-development or some uplifting people that you have decided to follow. Make sure you are watching on that internet something that's going to help your business grow or get you closer to God. If you're not watching the internet and the social media for that, that's not proper self-care. You continue to watch things that are negative and derogatory, the next thing you know, you're picking up habits and you feeling way down. You're picking up depression, you're picking up isolation, all types of things. Again, this is just diving into environmental. And I'm going to leave some links below. And again, you know what? I forgot. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Y'all know I'm new to this, right? So I'm supposed to say like, subscribe, and share. But below, I am going to leave some links on some different things that you can begin to do to get your environment together so that you are having proper self-care. Again, it's more than just going to the spa. It's more than just getting your hair and nails done. That's cute, and that's what social media talks about. But if you're not taking care of yourself in your environment, then how can you go out and be the woman that you've been called to be? Lastly, when it comes to your environment, you want to declutter. Women, I know some of us, we like to harbor a lot of stuff, right? We've become hoarders. We're shopping. And because we don't have a lot of time on our hand, things get out of order. Take some time and create a place of solitude, a prayer closet, a small little area, depending on the size of your home, that's just for you. Even if you live by yourself, you want a small little sanctuary. You want somewhere that you can write notes and you can journal and you can read your Bible and you can just chill. But make sure you're getting the clutter out your life, because if you have a cluttered environment, then you're going to have a cluttered mind. First thing we wanted to talk about was the environment, but now we're going to talk about the self-care of the mind. Self-care of the mind, everything starts with a thought. Everything. A lot of us, we don't have a safe place. We don't have an outlet. Some of us are harboring things that we've been holding on to as little girls. It is time to let it out. You are neglecting yourself and not taking care of yourself if you're not expressing some of the things that going on in your life. You're holding on to guilt. You're holding on to anger. You're holding on to resentment, and that will hold you down. You will feel like you've been weighted. So mentally, we have to take care of ourselves. Create an environment, a friend girl circle, or a therapist, or a community of like-minded individuals so that you can have that place of escape. And sometimes mentally, what we really need is to release some of the generational actions and thoughts that's been on our back. Again, listen, I'm not going to tell you anything that I haven't experienced. I was holding a lot of resentment and I was holding a lot of anger. Many of you know my story. I grew up with 2 drug addicted parents, and I was angry. I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy with women. I wasn't happy with men. I didn't like women because my mother was the first woman to really let me down and didn't do what she needed to do because of her drug. And then my father, he let me down and didn't do what he needed to do because of a drug. And so I had a lot of resentment in me, and I didn't know that that was hurting me. Forgiveness, or the lack of forgiveness, doesn't hurt the person. It hurts you. So proper self-care starts literally with your mind. Now, I'm not here to judge you. I still got some people that I don't roll with because they done crossed some boundaries that they shouldn't have crossed. But I just want to be real with you. You have to free yourself so that you can move forward. That also, as I'm talking about mental self-care, you have to make sure that you are getting some self-development. Self-development is so important. So important. If you're the smartest person in the room, get out the room. You don't need to stay in environments where you cannot grow. You need to find someone, 2 or 3 people who can literally pour into you and help you become the woman that you need to be. I'm sitting here today doing this podcast because there are people who have poured into my life who were in places I can only dream to be in, but I'm so much closer because of them. They help me accountable. See, women, we don't like to be accountable. We like to be the queens, but we don't like to really be accountable to someone else. That's mindset development. and self-development. And again, I'll leave some tools below so that you can tap into that a little bit more. I also want to say this. With my coaching clients, I give them what's called the wheel of life. There's 8 components in our life. And it's important that we look at these 8 areas of our life and we begin to grade ourselves, right? We know if we don't have our finances together. We know if we don't have our relationships together. We know if we are lacking in areas. And so when I start tapping into self-development and self-care for myself, I have to be true to myself. So you can't be in denial and think that you're going to create a life that you desire. You're going to have to be real with yourself. Listen, this is one of my favorite subjects because at the end of the day, I have to look at me. I have to look at the woman in the mirror, and I have to make sure that I'm taking care of myself. I can't even show up for my kids. And here's one of my biggest pet peeves, y'all. I just felt something because I work with a lot of women. And you know what the number one thing you all tell me? Oh, my kids, I'm doing it for my kids, or I want my kids to have a life. My kids, my kids, my kids. Well, mommy, come a little closer. Let me tell you something. If you are not taking care of yourself and creating the life that you want, let me tell you, this is not 1978 anymore. This is not a do as I say, not as I do world. Your children are watching you. They hear what you don't think they hear, just like I used to hear some things, just like you used to hear some things. The best example is to be the person you're supposed to be. I almost let go on things. My son, he just turned 32 April 30th, and I flew out to Indianapolis with him. He works for the NCAA. Some of y'all know this whole story, me being 17 years old when I birthed him, and I wasn't supposed to be nothing, and he wasn't either, because my mama had me as a teenager. I had him as a teenager, and his life was supposed to be doomed. Well, he is a college graduate, and I got my life together. Honestly, the closer he got to finishing high school, I said, I need to do something to show him, because he had already saw the struggle in mama. I ain't talking about man. I ain't talking about daddy. I'm talking about what he saw in me. I needed to be a stand-up woman in front of him. I needed to take care of self in front of him, so he would understand that he had a bounce back mama, and so that he can understand what it looks like to get out of the struggle, so that he can understand that society had us both all wrong. So mommy, if you're watching this, right, to the mommies watching this who's saying, oh, well, my life, didn't go the way I wanted, and I'm just going to, pray and hope everything goes well for my children. I'm that mother who want everything to go well for my children. I have 4 of them jokers for that, from the age of 15 to 32. But they're going to see in this life first their mom have hers together. And that's taking care of yourself. Show your children what you're about. Show your children what it's supposed to look like. If they've seen you down, that's okay. Let them see you rise. We are digging into self-care. And I know I gave you a lot today, right? But I want you to take care of yourself. And one last thing, I don't know if this falls up under mental or environmental, but what's on the inside comes on the outside. For all my single women, for those who are looking for a man or whatever, listen, self-care is not just putting yourself out there. I know social media and television and the blogs and all this say you got to present yourself a certain way. Ladies, you want a decent man. Now, y'all gonna beat me up because there are some podcasts that men are doing that talks about women and how they need to conduct themselves. You ain't taking care of yourself when you let it all hang out. You ain't taking care of yourself when you giving up all your goods and you ain't made them pay for it. And I don't mean by money. I mean by putting a ring on your finger. You're not taking care of yourself when you are falling for anything and not standing for nothing. If you're in relationships where you don't feel like you're being valued, they're devaluing you. But please stop valuing yourself and get out of those things. I'm from the old school, and I didn't always work through like I was taught. Believe me, I'm not just sitting here like I've been a saint. But today I can see why there's been some lessons that I had to do over and over again because I didn't listen to grandma. And these days, women, and y'all, I'm talking to women right now. I'm talking about 35 and over. Some of y'all making some mistakes that my 28, 26-year-old is doing, and they're no longer mistakes. We know better. We know better. So self-care, again, and there's something in there in you that's making you think you need to conduct yourself a certain way. You don't. You don't. You can cover it up. You can stand up proud. You can walk in the room with dignity, hold your head up, and make a man wonder what you got to offer. Go read Phenomenal Woman by Maya Angelou. There's some secrets in there, right? It's some secrets in there. Again, self-care is environmental mentally, but also physically. And I'm happy to join this self-care journey. Now, don't X out going to get your hair done. Take care of yourself. Even if you're going through right now, if you ain't got $1 in the bank, listen, if you ain't got 2 nickels to rub together, you ain't got to look like what you're going through. So take care of yourself. Get your hair done, get your nails done. If you just need to go in the bathroom, you got little kids running around or you had a hard day, go in that bathroom and run some bubble bath, okay? And if you got things that's going on and just stressing you out, go take a walk. Go take a walk. Physically take care of yourself. Physically take care of yourself. I know I said I was over, but I can't leave this out. You got to take care of your health physically. Go to the doctor. Go see what's going on with you. Eat better. We killing ourselves as women. We not taking care of ourselves. You don't have to be obese. You don't have to have high blood pressure. Uh, I know it ran in your family, but it could stop with you. Let's physically take care of ourselves. So again, there's a lot of different things you can do on this self-care journey, but don't leave out all the stuff that social media talks about. But I want you to mentally start looking into some self-care tactics. And self-care in close, y'all, before I let you go, is not a one-time thing. It's not a periodical thing. You just do it periodically. It's a lifestyle. Again, it's not just something you do periodically. It's a lifestyle. When you take care of you, you can be all that you need to be. And people will recognize that in you, and they'll take care of you differently as well. Until next time, it's your girl, Latasha Wap Williams. I'll see you at the top because the bottom is just too crowded. Remember, we're creating a life that we desire. See you next week. Bye-bye. She is a